for another exciting edition of Real Talk with Aaron and Steve, brought to us by New Life Community Church in Wellman. He's Aaron M. Fleming. I'm Stephen K. Shetler. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing great, Stephen K. There's a Stephen A. who's a famous sports media personality, right?
I don't think I'm quite as loud and as obnoxious as him, but yeah.
Well, we can work on that.
Yeah.
Amp up the loud and obnoxiousness. No, today it's real talk, and we have a real topic, and it is you better walk the walk and not just talk the talk.
Woo! See, a pro wrestler, because you know I'm a pro wrestling fan. The pro wrestler Ric Flair, legendary wrestler, would say that. You got to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk. You got to do a little strut, and then woo!
I tried to do my best pro wrestling voice for you. I don't know if you caught on to that or not, but walk the walk, not talk the talk.
So here we are. We're walking and we're talking.
Do I have a career in pro wrestling ahead of me, Steve?
I don't know.
That was a very polite way of saying no.
You could be the pastor. That could be your gimmick.
I could be the Velocipaster.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
The Velocipaster. It's a real movie made with a budget of, I think, $36,000. And it has like 4,000 five-star reviews on Amazon. It is the worst movie in the world. But we digress. Walk the walk, talk the talk. But before we dig into that, we have a topic that we need to cover, which is, and it's going to segue. I promise all of our listeners, this will connect. This is not going to be just a random discussion about Iowa football. It is a purposeful and meaningful discussion of Iowa football. Since we last met, Stephen K.
Yes.
Ooh, that could be your wrestling name.
Stephen K.
Stephen K. Cup. The Keurig man.
Yeah.
He will defeat his opponents in the ring, one serving at a time. Wow. I think what I was asking was, you actually got to go to Iowa's spring game, right?
I did.
Tell me about how the Iowa spring game went. We were all waiting on pins and needles to see the offense perform and to see the quarterbacks. And what'd you see at the Iowa spring game?
I mean, it went as expected. I mean, the only reason you go to this is because you want your football fix in the spring. You get to sit in Kinnick Stadium. It's free. A few thousand people are there, and you get to hear the crash of some pads and see some action on the field. But otherwise, not much offense. You saw the defense looking good. The kicking game looked good. I mean, even the punter that's replacing Torrey Taylor is looking good. But I mean, the quarterbacks looked like the quarterbacks. McNamara had his knee brace on. Deacon Hill has since entered the portal, as has another quarterback entered the portal. So who will be Iowa's quarterbacks? Who knows? But not offense, not so good.
More question marks than answers.
Yeah.
So did you get out there and throw the ball around a little bit and show them how it's done?
I did. No. I didn't. I was
what?
never a quarterback. In fact, I was never all that good at football in high school. So no.
You played some center, right?
Yeah. It wasn't good.
Were you a starter?
In my varsity career, I started about 1.5 games, and then the coach had enough. As had I. I was like, get me out of here.
I've got a friend who grew up in Jamaica, and he was they call it like 7th form or something like that. That means 7th grade, and he was supposed to be on his school's rugby team.
Okay.
And he went to the first game, and I guess like 7th grade through high school, through through seniors all play on the same rugby team.
Oh, wow.
So he's like
Yeah.
5 foot tall and weighs 92 pounds. And he said he was holding the ball and he looked across the field and saw these gigantic 6'4", 240-pound guys on the other team.
Yeah.
And he said he just put the ball down and walked out of the stadium and walked home and never showed up for rugby again.
Wow. Yeah, that's like a kid going against adults, basically.
Yeah. So it sounds like your football career was similar. Did you play defense at all?
Not. I mean, I might have got a few plays here and there on varsity. So no, I was better at football on video games than I was in real life.
So Steve, it appears to me that you're kind of a classic example of a guy who can talk the talk but not walk the walk.
I am a great Monday morning quarterback. Yeah, I can sit there and complain, but yeah, I couldn't do any better.
Full disclosure, I never played organized football at all. And yet I too have all kinds of opinions.
Yeah.
About what football teams should do and who should play and who shouldn't play, and so I've got all kinds of opinions of my own. And I always think of cross country runners as being the opposite of football players.
Okay.
Cross country runners are the skinny, lanky guys who just do not want to get slammed into and hurt by somebody else.
Yeah.
So kind of opposite spectrum of the sports world, but man, I've got a lot of opinions.
Yep. That's part of the joy of being a sports fan. You don't actually have to get in there, but boy, you can have your opinions.
All right. Well, now I think we better segue to real life. Is it healthy and wholesome in real life to just sit back and talk about how everybody else should be doing things while I myself, you yourself, Stephen K. Shetler, is it healthy for us to sit around and talk about how everybody else should be doing stuff while we sit there doing nothing?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. It's one thing to talk the talk, but it's another thing to walk the walk. And hey, you know what? Yeah, I think you've mentioned a time or two that I'm a pastor, and so I gotta preach a little bit this morning. Ready?
Lay it on me, brother.
I'm gonna reach over here and grab a hold of my Bible. Then I'm gonna preach the word.
You got to get a little evangelist in you.
Oh yeah. Have you seen that? There was a video going around Facebook where the preacher is praying up front and somebody in the front row farts.
Can we talk about farts?
We just went there on Steve Shetler Media.
Yes, I have. In fact, I shared that.
Okay, that's how I was familiar with that.
Saw
That's probably how I saw it.
It's a great video.
It is a great video. Maybe
and that's walking the walk. That's talking the talk and walking the walk.
Sometimes people don't like to go to church because they say it's not real. I don't like the people in church. They're all fake. Well, apparently not in that church.
Yeah.
Come visit us at New Life Wellman, and we're not quite that real, I hope.
Or rude.
Yeah. All right. Okay, enough
Okay,
fart
lay it
talk.
on me, preacher.
Okay. Ephesians, which we were talking about last week. Ephesians, we're in chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 8. For you were once darkness. Ooh, not just you were living in darkness or there was darkness around you or you had kind of like a cloud floating over you, but you were once darkness. But now you are, and folks, this is speaking to people who've put their trust in Jesus. And if you haven't done that yet, maybe you are darkness, and that could explain the darkness that you feel and sense in your life, in which case, come on, it's time to get saved. But if you have received salvation, then you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. Now, I'm reading to you from the New International Version, which I use because it's it's a pretty easy reading version.
And
but
easy to understand, too.
Easy to understand. Maybe not quite as easy to understand as some even more modern translations. There's a lot of translations out there.
Yeah.
You know which one is the best?
I don't know.
The one you read.
Yes.
But some of the older translations, like good old King Jimmy, instead of saying live as children of the light, they translate the old Greek word a little more literally. And it says walk as children of the light. So you are light. So you ought to walk as if you are light, because you are light. So don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. I have one more thing to say about walking. This is going to be very encouraging for people who don't like to run. As a cross-country runner, I like to run. I don't very much anymore because my knees and my feet and everything just kind of hurts. So I walk now. I put on a backpack and walk for my exercise. But the great news is that over and over and over in the book of Ephesians, we're encouraged to walk a life of faith. So you don't have to run a life of faith. You don't have to dance a life of faith. You don't have to go cartwheeling down the road or something like that. Mm-hmm. Most of us can walk, and I find that to be such a relief. Hey, I went to high school at the formerly Iowa Mennonite School. It was a fantastic experience, but that was back in the days when the term "on fire" was kind of the hot phrase in Christianity. Yep. You got to be on fire for God. That sounds kind of like professional wrestling too. I'm working on the voice. On fire, brother. Are you on fire for God? And so I would get these chapel speakers, and every speaker that comes to chapel wants to fire the young people up, right? Sure. This is your one chance to influence the young people. And nobody meant to do this, but I ended up feeling this burden to be on fire all the time, which I interpreted as being like in this heightened state of emotional fervor about
like excited all the time.
Yeah. Have you ever felt that pressure? Like as a Christian, you ought to be excited all the time.
Yeah, but you burn yourself out. You can only stay so excited for so long.
and every once in a while you meet somebody who just seems like they're amped up all the time, right?
Yeah.
But I've just come to believe over the years that that's a personality.
Yeah.
That's just a personality style. It's not a sign. And I would bet you 9 times out of 10 that person was amped up all the time before they were a Christian. They're not amped up because they're a Christian. They're amped up because God made them an amped up person.
Now they have an actual reason and purpose to be amped up.
Yeah.
They know how to direct it now.
just like lots of people are really good at sales just naturally. And so if they're not living for God, they're really good at selling drugs.
Yeah.
We heard a missionary heard a missionary talk one time, and he said he had the gift of generosity, and he just even before he was a believer, he wanted to share everything all the time. And so he said, I was a great drug dealer because I'd get some good stuff and I'd go around to all my friends and be like, man, you got to try this stuff. It's so great. And all of his friends would give him money and he'd give them drugs, right? And then he got saved and he became an evangelist. Why? Because God had built that thing inside of him where he just wanted to share every good thing. So as soon as he got saved, he quit using drugs and going around to all his friends and saying, you got to try this thing. I found Jesus.
Yeah.
So, a lot of us have felt pressure, if we're not an amped up kind of person, to be amped up all the time. And like Steve says, it's just exhausting. It's exhausting. And then you get discouraged and wonder what's wrong with you. Well, here's the good news. We are children of light, and we're called to walk a life of faith, not sprint a life of faith. That's it.
Be a steady Eddie.
Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie wins the race. So, hey, I think that's probably a good place to wind up for today.
That works for me. Put a plug in for your church.
Oh yeah, New Life Church meets in the Parkside Activity Center, which is the YMCA building in North Park of Wellman, Iowa. We meet at 10 o'clock. And then we got some small groups that meet during the week, different men's groups and women's groups, and a young men's Bible study, which is semi-secret, so I can't say too much about it on the air.
Sounds intriguing.
That's why it's semi-secret. That increases the intrigue factor, but I can't say anything more because the first rule.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're going to shift topics before I get in trouble with my semi-secret Bible study. So anyway, that's kind of how we roll, folks. We're pretty well dorks at New Life. So if you're a dork or you just love God or you need some support in your life, come hang out with us on Sunday morning and find a family of faith that you can plug into. And if you don't live near Wellman, there's other good churches out there. Search around until you find one. Maybe you need to visit a couple until you find the one that fits you best. But hey, all right, that's it.
All right. Well, that's Real Talk with Aaron and Steve, brought to us by New Life Community Church in Wellman. Till next week, we'll see you then.
Whew, all right.